DeCoders show. We're back with Deep Dive episode 10. Really great guest that we have on today that fits the appeal of what Deep Dive's about. As I like to showcase positive people in the space doing positive things that are growing communities and helping others. So without further ado, let me introduce you guys to someone you've already seen on the channel a few times. I don't even know how many times he's been on the channel, but our good friend. There he is. Socrates, what's up? How you doing, man?
It is good to be here. Thank you for having me. Always love, hopping on Decoder shows. You guys do a great job. I watch the intro and I get a little too excited sometimes.
We got to get you in the
It's pretty
intro. I
high.
mean, yeah, I wouldn't say you're probably one of our reoccurring guests. Like you've been on the show at least, I would say 5 times now.
I think it's been like 3 times. This is my 3rd time, I think.
Because I mean, you joined us during the 24-hour session. You joined us.
I forgot about that. So maybe it's been more than that. Yeah.
You joined us a few times with your project and with Jericho, and I know you joined us also when I think VPIF was doing a space with a different format. So I think you've been on. This might be your 5th time or so.
Something like that. Yeah,
we love having you.
Can't get enough of me, right? Yeah.
I mean, we love having you, man. You're like I was saying in the intro, man. You're like one of the most positive people I've met, and that I get to see in this space, and I love seeing it because it's rare.
I try my best. I should try my best. Yeah.
So how was your holidays, man?
I had excellent holidays. I got to hang out with family over the last couple of days. Actually, the last week or so, it's been good. Go over to my grandma's house, hang out. We made lasagna. That's our go-to Christmas dinner yearly. So I had I had enough lasagna to kill a man at this point. To come more leftovers than I probably should, but it's been good, man. Got some, cool stuff, gave gifts to the family. So it's been great.
Yeah, man. That's awesome, man. Holidays can be rough for some people, but it's always good to hear when they're good for people too, as well.
Yeah.
That's good, man. Going into the new year, I'm excited. Yeah, man. So I do appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule, especially in between the holidays. I know it's busy for all of us to come back on. Love having you, man. And I just want to start the show with, I want to know how you found Web3. Like what brought you here? Like where did you get the urge to like check out crypto or NFTs or just Web3 in general? Like I just want to know what turned you onto it first.
Yeah, so for me, how I got into Web3, it wasn't on my own volition. I'll say that. It wasn't out of my sheer curiosity. There was a time, right before COVID, or maybe it was during COVID, 2019, 2020, that I did dabble in a little bit of cryptocurrency, but that was through Robinhood, right? Robinhood at the time had just rolled out their crypto program, and there was like ETH, Bitcoin. It was like ETH, Bitcoin, Dogecoin, and like something else. I bought like, a bunch of Dogecoin for the meme. I never held it. I sold it for like, burger money. But that was my first kind of intro to crypto back then. And then when I was in college, back when I must have been a sophomore in college. So it was like 2020-ish. It was a little bit after COVID. Jericho, who's one of my co-founders at Syndicate, and he's been one of my best friends for a long time. He was like, "Hey, Socrates, I think you'd be really interested in working on this project that I'm going to be putting together." And I was like, you know what? That does sound interesting. Let me, get involved. And then that project ended up being a crypto-related project. And, before you know it, I was cast into the field of Web3. And then it ended up just clicking for me. Because at that time, I wasn't really sure what I was doing. I had done a couple different things. I had done research at my university on, what was I doing? Gerrymandering research. I was also doing, I had this peer mentoring program for high school students to get them into college that I was doing, but all of it just like wasn't really working for me. So then I took this leap into this Web3 opportunity, found how multifaceted and interesting it is, and then the rest is history. So that's more or less my story. That's in a broad sense. There's a lot more, on the day-to-day for that.
So dabbled with a little crypto and Robinhood. I think everyone did that. And then, got thrown in that NFT project. Sounds about right.
Yeah, basically what happened.
If you don't mind me asking, what did you study when you were in college? Was it anything like in a field that you were like really inspired to go towards?
Yeah, so I studied industrial engineering. So if you don't know what that is, it's like workflow optimization and processes, and everyone likes to call it the business side of engineering, right? So you're the person that's kind of the middleman between the technical people and the business guys, right? So that's generally what I was doing. Originally, I wanted to go to school for mechanical engineering, and then I realized I hate physics. And it was a nightmare. So luckily I had to stay in the engineering school because I had a scholarship. Well, one of the few scholarships I had was engineering related. So like, oh man, that kind of sucks. So let me do industrial engineering. It was it's cool. It's too analytical for me. I Whenever I went into college and I went about the college process, and took my classes or whatever, I always thought I was a very analytical style person. Like, oh, cold hard numbers, computations, prove you wrong with evidence analysis, whatever. And then it never clicked for me. I thought I'd have like that epiphany moment at some point, where that eureka moment where I'd be like, oh yeah, this is what I was meant to be doing the whole time, and I never got that ever. And then that's why I got lucky with this Web3 opportunity for sure, because it's been multifaceted. I've learned that I'm a lot more of a creative person. I like talking to people. I'm more extroverted. So it's been a learning process for sure. But that was my major, industrial engineering.
Nice, man. Well, I'm glad you stumbled your way into Web3, because as I said before, man, you're a blessing to Web3. At least from my perspective, as someone who's been around a lot of the environment. Solana, when we first started, and I'm sure you started. You're talking like 2021. You probably got in Solana NFTs.
Yeah.
Like around the same time, like when Famous Fox was minting DeCod3rs, like that time. That's kind of like when
A
I
little
got
bit,
started.
a little bit after, yeah. That December, January,
And it was a great space then. I mean, it was real positive. I remember, all the projects I was in, everybody was like helping each other out, and everybody was, we're gonna make it. And then it just went south, as the bull cycle filtered completely out and we start hitting that bear cycle, we saw everybody change. It just became a real toxic space. So like I said, man, it's hard to find people that are positive and trying to do good out there. And my experience with you, man, it's all you ever been. So it's awesome, man. It's good to see, man. It's really good to see. And I was part of your, I think it might have been the first project that you were in that you're talking about. I know I was a holder. I think I'm not sure if it's the right project. Was it the one with the crypto mining?
Yeah, so that's the project I'm talking about. It's called High Voltage. So
Yes.
High Voltage, just to give a brief overview kind of that project, that was I was the first business that I got kind of, pulled into. So at the time, Jericho, my co-founder, was operating a crypto mining business. Him and a couple of friends we had in college put together, they had a mining facility in a different city from where we were living. And they did Bitcoin mining. This was, I think, right at the beginning of the bull market. They'd put it all together. They grew their, equipment, whatever. And then they're like, hey, a big problem with the Bitcoin mining space is that it's very inaccessible. Right, the barrier, there's all these people that want exposure to this side of crypto, but it's difficult for themselves to bootstrap something like that. And that there do exist facilities, or they did exist facilities that they would host miners for you, and you just buy the miners and they'd host them or whatever. But they're very expensive, right? So what we were thinking is, hey, what if we had this NFT collection that basically, tokenized Bitcoin mining, right? Made it easier to be a part of something like that. And so that's what we did. We were the first NFT to do that on Solana, and we minted the collection. We didn't end up minting out. We only had part of the race that we needed. So we pivoted a little bit. We bought ASIC miners, and then we did a PFP mint, which we bought GPUs. We bought ASICs and GPUs to do crypto mining with. Long story short, there's a whole bunch of different issues that happened. I won't go like super deep into them because I don't think it's very probably the time for it. But we ran into a whole bunch of different issues with our business partners. There were 3 other people other than me, Bonzo, and Jericho, and they were not very easy to work with. Whenever we wanted to work with them, when it came to hosting, they gave us very predatory rates to the point where our company wouldn't even be profitable. It was a nightmare. So we had to hassle with them for a couple months. And then by the time we were able to actually get a favorable deal with them, and install our miners and have them hosted in that facility, a couple different things happened at the same time. It's very tragic. Number one is our facility. Keep in mind, I'm from Oklahoma, right? Our facility actually gets hit by a tornado. We suffer extreme structural tornado damage. Luckily, none of the equipment got damaged, but we're now out of a hosting facility. We look for every other options. I literally called restaurants because you need a certain type of. It's kind of a nightmare situation. You need a certain type of plug an outlet. I'm not the tech guy, keep this in mind. You need a certain type of like outlet to run these miners. It runs out of a different voltage, so you can't just use a house socket. So we were like calling different places that could host us temporarily, like car washes have the outlets we need, restaurants, like there's a whole bunch. We had this huge list, like we just cold called everybody in our area. It was crazy. But anyway, so we get hit by a tornado, and then we're like, oh my god, we're like another set of delays. This is the absolute worst. So we're like, okay, so what else can we do here? And then we start to come up with some other ideas, some other things we could do in the meantime. And then FTX happens, and mining becomes the least profitable it has ever been ever. So with the amount of money we were charging for electricity and stuff like that, yeah, it was just kind of a nightmare. So we had to fight with also, while all this was happening, our insurance company is like, hey, we're gonna take 2.5 months to give you guys your cash. It was like, oh my god, it was just a nightmare. So so that's high voltage in a nutshell. And rather than kind of like sitting on our hands the whole time, we're like, okay, can we like work on something else at this point? So we start working on Syndicate. And Syndicate was kind of made on the idea that while we were working on high voltage as a project, the biggest issue we saw with this space, and this is the biggest issue that I think exists in Web3 right now, is when it comes to starting a business here in Web3, your go-to-market is very limited, right? Whenever we think about projects, the only ways you can really do your marketing is through Twitter. That's really it.
Yeah.
It's really just Twitter, right? You post something on the timeline and you hope something works, right? Of course, you have like Telegram group chats, Discord groups. If you're a pre-mint project, you also have like Subber and Atlas and some of these like whitelist solutions. But that's it. If you're like if you're a Web3 adjacent business or an NFT adjacent business, good luck. Good luck trying to get users, right? So we're like, okay, what if we make Discord more accessible to marketing? And while we were doing that, we're like, what other free value can we be providing to all these different communities? And we thought, why not a newsletter, right? I mean, one thing that is very hard to get in this space is great information, right? Staying on top of what's happening, staying in the know, staying in the loop. And we were like, let's kill 2 birds with one stone. Let's make this sick business model and offer it for free for everybody. So it's a win-win-win situation. We sell sponsored news and make money that way. We have marketers or, we have businesses that now have access to an entirely new audience on a new platform. And then people get free newsletter to read every day.
And it's reliable. It's super reliable.
It happens every day. It's free. Anyone can sign up for it. We're in 1,200 servers. We're in MonkeyDAO. We're in Bonk. We're in all these different communities.
In DeCod3rs.
Yeah, we're in DeCod3rs, right? We're just about everywhere, right?
Yeah, man. I just want to touch base that I think it's an amazing thing to be able to pivot that way because, the same way the DeCod3rs came about was the same kind of thing. We came to a point with a project where a bunch of us worked in the project and it needed a pivot. There was no out. And you have to realize that in this space, like eventually, like you can't save some projects, you just have to pivot. You got to be transparent and you got to push on. And Syndicate was born out of, sadly, like I said, you got destroyed by a bunch of different things. The whole market for mining went down. The natural disaster, of course, the insurance companies, So it was like and I was there because, like I said, I was in high voltage in the beginning, because I was in Wastelanders and we were friends with Jericho because he was one of our holders, so we were always supporting each other. And I watched you guys pivot and go through all that. And I remember when all that happened, man, and I was a ETH miner, so I understood exactly what kind of stuff you guys were dealing with.
The other thing that happened, I totally forgot. So the whole plan with the GPUs is we called it like I forgot what the strategy we called it. It's like a blitz strategy or something. So we bought these GPUs and we knew they were they were pretty high profit at the time because we were able to get the GPUs for retail, right? So we were able to get them for retail from a supplier. So we're like, oh, we don't have to pay scalpers rates. So the profitability on these are actually pretty high. So we bought them and then we're doing our thing and then we couldn't get the facility up, and then we got hit by a tornado, and then FTX happened, and before all that happened, like somewhere along the way, ETH merge happened too.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So it was like we got totally screwed. It was a total nightmare. But I forgot about that.
I mean, the only win I heard in there was getting the GPUs at retail because
that was a pretty big W. That was a humongous W. Yeah.
Because 2020 to 2021, getting GPUs was not easy. Like you had to be before the mining hit. I mean, like the mining boom was like 2019 on ETH, where people were like, "Wait a minute, I can make some really good money, and it's not that expensive to invest into it. Like me personally, I invested 10K. I built
Mhm.
3 miners, 48 GPUs, and I ran them off of solar in a house, and I did well. You know what I mean? Because my
Yeah.
cost, my electricity wasn't that bad. I had a partner, you know what I mean, and we were making. I mean, I still have a bag of ETH from it that I plan on selling this cycle, and I've been waiting for this cycle because last cycle I knew it wasn't the right cycle because all my ETH was pretty much free in a sense. I only have
Mhm.
10,000 invested into it. But once that boom hit, it was impossible to get GPUs. You're lucky if you could a $400 GPU was $1,200 anywhere you
Yeah.
went. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it
Like
was great. It
if
was a
you're
great
trying to build
time.
a computer, you were screwed because of the
Yeah.
miners. Everybody hated miners because they're like, I just want to build a gaming computer, man.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah.
No, but man, it's great to see you guys build something positive out of that, and because of that pivot, and it taught you a lot in this space too, I believe, because you
Oh,
guys went
yeah.
through that turmoil. Now anything comes across Syndicate's plate, you guys are like, we got this.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, like, when we were doing high voltage, there were like there was times where we were like, "There's not a lot we can like do for the project." Like a lot of our capital was put into the equipment. I mean, that was the whole point of the project, right?
Yep.
So it was like, so we put a ton of capital in the project, and it was like, dude, like it was like I won't. This isn't really like the right place to get into it, but there's a lot of like business back end stuff that was happening to that. Like where I had to have like side hustles to float some of the stuff we had to do. Like there like we had to hustle. Like it was tough. It was tough for sure. But during that time where like me and Jericho were really kind of putting pedal to the metal, we learned a lot about this space. I met a lot of my friends. I did, I started being a part of spaces, being a part of community. I became a Discord auditor, and that's how I met a lot of, met a lot of great people and people I still collaborate with to this day. So I learned a lot about the inner mechanisms of the space and how marketing works here, how go-to-markets work, advising, how the back end works, right? So, yeah, it's definitely been something we've learned through a lot of trial and error, just putting in time, heart, blood, sweat, and tears. And, that's why whenever we talk, we kind of sound like we know what we're talking about, right? That's,
Yeah.
that's kind of, yeah, that's how we got there. Yeah.
Before I bridge off of something you just said, I just want to say what's up to Lenny and Steven in the chat. I see you guys saying hello. Not ignoring you guys. We were just chatting about some spicy stuff here. I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys had a good holiday. So you mentioned that you're a Discord auditor, and now me firsthand, I've seen it. I've seen your work. You do wonderful things. I mean, I saw you save the Jelly server when they got taken down and bring it back into a safe haven. I mean, to the point that I get quarantined all the time as a mod
Yeah.
over there because I'll be like banning people, and the bot's like, we don't trust that you're
Yeah.
real.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So how did you get into that? Like, what brought you into Discord auditing?
So yeah, so Discord auditing. So just for clarification, I mean, I do it, but I just don't have the time for it anymore.
Yeah,
But how I did get in, it's actually a very interesting like trade to have in Web3. It's very specialized.
it is.
Um, I got into it originally because I used to design like Discords. Like I think of like the UX of the community, right? I think about, okay, where should you put your announcement channel? How should you structure this? Because I had to do it for high voltage, right? So I was like, oh, there's a lot of like cool hacks you could do, like having the bar in the category so it like looks nicer, and you can use like certain symbols to make it look nicer and dividers and stuff. Like this was kind of when people were starting to solve how Discord works. Now it's solved, but it didn't always used to be like that. There was no standard at the beginning, right? So I used to design servers for people. And then I came across, I was a holder in Cybervillains at the time. And that was dereg by Spoonicus, who's a good friend of mine. And I was a holder, and I was going to flip it originally, but then I saw the server. I'm like, this server sucks. So what I did is Spoon happened to be in a voice call, and I joined the voice call. I was like, Spoon, you need to fix your server, dude. And I gave him a whole bunch of like points of advice. And Spoon operated a marketing agency called Soul Blitz.
Yep.
So then he's like, "Hey, Socrates, I think you'd be a good fit. You did great work on the Cybervillain server. I think you'd be, or Broccoli DAO is what it was called. You did great job on Broccoli DAO. I think you would be a good fit for Soul Blitz." I was like, "Dude, say less." So I did Soul Blitz for, I think it was a couple months, and then Soul Blitz became Trust DAO, and then they did the marketing stuff out of Trust DAO, and that's how I met Doc and a lot of these other great people. And then from there, I just got a whole bunch of clients. I ended up learning Discord security because originally I had done a setup for a client of Soul Blitz's, And then a different security auditor came through and he's like, hey, dude, your security setup sucks. I was like, wait, there's such thing as Discord security? I didn't even know that existed. And then I asked that guy a couple questions, and he directed me to a couple different people. Namely, there's two people in particular that I think are great resources for Discord security if you guys are interested. John HQ on Twitter and Plum, I think Plum Ferno, right? I think is her name. Let me make sure I get that right, because they're the homies. They're really great people. The guys at Server Forge are super, super awesome. So definitely recommend you guys check those out if you're interested in this trade.
Yeah, I'm familiar with
Plum
John.
Ferno.
John's definitely been around. He's
They're excellent.
And I don't think people understand like Discord involves a lot of API and webhooks and stuff like that, which, you know, hackers can really take advantage of that. And especially like 2FA, everybody thinks they're protected by 2FA.
Oh yeah, 2FA, that's the biggest misconception, dude.
So
everyone gets that wrong.
It's so easy to exploit it. So
yeah.
I mean, it's all about being safe. It's about actually like people like me that have permission servers, just being aware and just being careful, because that solves most of the issues. It's people that just aren't paying attention.
Yeah,
Trust anything they get. Like, I'm sure even when I sent you the link for the show, you're probably like, let me check this out real quick.
There's a couple of things you can do. I think like the number one misconception that people have there's two things I'll say that are common misconceptions. Number one is people think 2FA is enough to keep them safe. It's not at all. How you should think of your Discord account is just as your crypto wallet has a private key, so does your Discord account, and it's called your Discord token. And if someone has your Discord token, if a hacker or a malicious actor or whoever has your Discord token, they can get into your account regardless of your email, your password, your date of birth, your social security. They don't need your mom's maiden name. They don't need your first dog's name. They don't need any of that. They can just get into your account, right? And what happens when all these servers typically get compromised is someone gets their Discord token stolen, and it's typically a moderator or an admin or a server owner or something along those lines. That's what's happening, right? So that's the biggest thing, right? You're not safe with just 2FA. You got to be careful with how you use your account. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is one thing to always keep in mind with Discord servers is there's two things a hacker wants. They want to be able to ping everybody. So ping a role or ping the member role or ping literally at everyone. And they want to be able to drop a drainer link. That's what they want to do. Those are their two objectives. And to do good Discord security, you have to prevent both of those. So,
yeah, and that's why, like I said, I get quarantined in jelly all the time, but I'm happy.
It's because you're pinging everybody, right? Or that's typically what it is, right?
Or I'm deleting people. Like we got botted one day, and the auto mod was telling us that we were getting botted. There was like 20, and they were sending mass DMs. You know, that auto mod stuff that they have. So I saw all these accounts sending mass DMs, and it was like all happening. They all just joined. They were just mass DMing all the holders. So I started kicking those people. And after I kicked 5 people in a row within a certain amount of time, I got quarantined because I could be trying to kick team members. You know, I could be,
that probably, there's a couple of, like, I won't go into like the nitty gritty of Discord setup, but there's a bot called BMO. That's a really good service. It's free, BEEMO, like Adventure Time BMO kind of thing. It's a great service. It prevents raids like that, and it'll automatically ban stuff like that. So there's a whole bunch of cool resources. Like as I mentioned earlier, if you guys are interested in server security, Server Forge is an excellent resource. So is John HQ and Plum Ferno. They can always direct you. There's a couple other people like Blazy and some of these other guys, but you'll kind of, if you dig around, you'll find them. They're great people, great resources.
And I mean, that kind of ties into like, what you're doing now. And you say you don't have enough time for it. So I know your full attention right now is Syndicate, of course, which is your project that you have with Jericho and the other gentleman. His name's slipping my mind right now.
Bonzo, yeah, he's a developer.
Bonzo,
he's in the shadows.
I didn't want to mistake it, call him like a bozo, but I knew it was like Bonzo.
Close enough, yeah.
I don't want to misspeak, but yeah, man. So with that, I mean, what else do you have going on currently? Like you're focused on? Is it just Syndicate right now? Is it just like doing like the education stuff that you do with spaces? I know you do a lot of great spaces. You're probably one of the better Twitter space hosts out there. You're very informational. You have great guests. You have great formats, great questions. Anytime I'm in any of your spaces, man, I enjoy them. You just know how to ask people questions. You know how to talk. You know how to guide the conversation, which is very important in spaces to keep the conversation going so that stalemate doesn't happen. You're very good at that stuff. So I'm just curious. Just curious to, like, now that Syndicate's your only focus, like what else are you guys building anything you want to talk about with Syndicate right now?
Yeah, there's a couple things in the back end that I don't really have the liberty to talk about right now. It's namely, but I'm not really working on those. That's mainly like Jericho and Bonzo and some of the extended team. So what I'm working on in particular is I'm doing those Twitter Spaces. I also do a lot of like BD related stuff, so I'm taking calls, I'm doing networking. But my big project right now is the Syndicate Creator Program. So it's called Syndicate Studios. So we used to have a content creator program, and it kind of got put on ice because it became difficult to manage and it wasn't very scalable, and we weren't really doing what we wanted to do. So what I did recently over the last like month or two is I really revisited the program, and I was like, okay, really, whenever we think about content creators in Web3, what are they looking for? What actually makes a good content creator collective? And I realized that I think personally a lot of the content creator models you see that exist in Web3, predominantly on ETH, I think the biggest problem with them is that they assume the problem that creators have has to do with education, or knowing the algorithm or understanding the algorithm, or how their profile looks and stuff like that. But that couldn't be further from what creators actually need. What they actually need is a support system. They need accountability, and they need to know how to prevent burnout, like the mental game. Everything to do with the that's like not the content itself. I am of the opinion that everyone is capable of being a great content creator. I believe, whether that be, everyone has their own unique skills. I mean, maybe you went to school for, carpentry. Maybe you know how to do carpentry. I mean, that's your skill, right? For someone else, for me in particular, it's writing. I'm good at writing, right? Like, I think everyone has a unique skill that they can leverage, but the reason they're not succeeding as a content creator is because they don't have a plan. They don't have a support system. That's it.
Yeah,
And what we're
I
doing with,
agree.
go ahead. Yeah. And what we're doing with the studios team is I've built out extensive resources and support and accountability for our creators. I think we have about 8 creators: C3PO, Axel, Isle, Bridget. Um, oh man, I'd have to pull up the list. There's a whole bunch of people. Say Shu. There's a whole bunch of guys. I'd have to pull it up again. Coach, they're great people. All of them are great people, and we're actively onboarding new people. But the whole thing, kind of going, I'm going into the weeds a little bit. But going back to kind of the original premise, is what I do with this content creator program is I give people support resources and I hold them accountable. Every week, I have a meeting with all of these guys, and I'm like, how did we do last week? What's the plan for this week? How are we challenging ourselves? That's it. We are growth first, results second, and I think this is how you win. I'm building a team that's going to win, like, for sure. Like, we're just gonna outwork everybody because we're doing it the smart way. We're doing it the real way. I don't give a fuck about farming and spending 200 hours replying guy. It's more, how are you being a better person, and how are you meeting new people and finding new opportunity that way? Because I
Yeah,
think when it comes to content creator collectives, another thing that comes up often with stuff like this is monetization, right? It's like, dude, if you join our collective, we'll bring you clients of which you can promote, do retweets and stuff like that, which I'm down for, because that's kind of the nature of Web3, and it's like this guerrilla marketing, whatever. I mean, some of that happens undisclosed, which I'm not down for, but as I do believe in transparency and being above board, but I understand monetization, right? Everyone wants to be a creator. They got to pay the bills, whatever. But the thing is, like, I think these creators should, if they just know how, they can find the opportunities themselves. They are more than capable. People are smart. We do not give them enough credit. People are smart. They're hardworking. The support system. This has been my take since day one. Well, not really day one. It's been my take for a while at this point, because I've learned the hard way. I've asked friends, what did they need in those times, right? And this is what they needed. So, yeah. So like that's what we're doing. That's been like my big, what I've been spending a lot of time doing. Other than that, it's like, yeah, BD, networking, classic sales related stuff. So yeah.
I mean, that's something we do focus on too with DeCod3rs, is we try not to burn ourselves out. That's why we have different series, different hosts. We try rotating things. We keep content going, but we're not always, it's not just Vince 24/7, or it's
Right.
not just VPIP 24/7, because, it takes a toll on you doing shows. I mean, it might not seem like a lot, but I mean, there's, like, spoke about it with Quicks last week when I had him on the show. There's that anxiety we have when we know we're going to host the show, like right before the show goes on. I know me, sometimes I'm like, oh man, I don't even feel like doing this. Like, you know what I mean? You get that anxiety, like, you know what I mean? Like, and a lot of content creators get it. And a lot of them will cancel shows or they'll cancel events. And they get that anxiety and they don't know how to push through. But then after the show, you're rewarded because you're like, man, that was one of the best shows I had. I'm glad I did it. You know what I mean? And it's people like you that are pushing people to be positive and to keep them focused that are really valuable. And I hope these people that you're working with really understand what you're doing for them, because
Do I beat into that? I see what we're doing. This is,
yeah,
I mean,
it's like a little boot camp.
exactly right. And I'm not a perfect person by any means, right? Like I I mess stuff up. Maybe I'm overly critical sometimes. Sometimes I'm a little bit late with some of the stuff I'm doing. Um, but yeah, like I try my best. So I tell them, I'm like, hey, I'm also learning the best way, right? Like, am I gonna get this right every time? Absolutely not, right? It's been a learning process for sure. The program is thing. I've changed how some of it works over time, and yeah, it's all about iterating. And yeah, as you mentioned, I appreciate what you're saying, and yeah, I just care about supporting people. Like at the end of the day, I think people are more than capable of doing it. They just need a little extra help.
And you can learn so much from them as well, because the teacher can always be taught, especially if the teacher, which I know you're the type of person, has an open mind and is willing to listen.
Oh
Because a
yeah.
lot of times people in the space don't listen, and that's their biggest
Well,
mistake, you know?
and this is also it's actually good you mentioned this. I also think the biggest problem with some of the programs that exist right now is they think of it as the teacher when really it should be the coach. It is a
Yeah.
big difference, right? I think so. For what I do is like, I do know a little bit more. I've seen so much stuff like content and how you should make your profile or whatever, but I really designed to be like, you need to do this because this. It's more of like, okay, let's ourselves to do this a little bit. How can we be better? And it's not me saying you need to do this to be better. It's like we figure it out together, right? I'll make some recommendations to start with, and then we'll kind of chip away at it. It's not be the journey. That's the whole thing,
Yes.
right? That's what it's supposed to be with Syndicate.
No, I
So
love it,
so
man.
yeah.
I love to hear it, man, and I just love to see it. Again, one of the reasons why I respect you so much in the space, because you're constantly helping people, and it brings me to like one of my next questions. And I find a lot of people like myself, the reason I'm so positive is because one, I either went through some really crazy tough shit and I learned a lot from it, and I really learned that there's more to life than just stressing about the wrong things, because you feel blessed, or you
Mhm.
just you just have that mentality and you always had it. So I'm kind of curious with you, like the positive mindset you've always had. Have you always had it? Have you always been the positive one? Or was there somewhere along the line, like you went through some turmoil and you really learned and woke up and you were like, whoa, wait a minute. There's more to life than this thinking. Let me change the way. And you change your observation, your perception on things. And then you
Yeah.
realize that there's more to life. So I'm kind of curious with you, like, was there a transition, or were you just always this way? Like where you just always saw the good?
So I've always been a go-getter for sure. I've always been like an overachiever, but I didn't always used to be an optimist. I didn't always used to be like a selfless optimist kind of person. Um, Really, it all kind of it's kind of weird that this is the story, but for me, the very early parts of high school. So I'm 22 right now for context. So it hasn't been super long, but kind of the most transformative part of my life was my senior year of high school when college admissions were happening. So when I was younger, pre high school and actually going into high school, I was a super overachiever. I had to have straight A's in everything. I like was in every fucking club you imagine. I founded clubs I didn't even because I wanted it on my resume. I did college level research in high school. I was presidents and vice presidents. Like I did a bunch of stuff. I was all over the place because my dream, my absolute dream. That sounds so. My dream was to get into Stanford. That's cool. I'd idolized it for so long. I used to look at it, so many people like I here at the campus. The campus used to be able to do. Like I absolutely did, and I worked extremely hard to get there. And I'm going to skip a couple steps, but what ended up happening is, I wrote my college essays. I went through the college prep programs. I did all this different stuff, and then lo and behold, I get rejected for my dream. Rejected for my dream school. I all really wanted to attend. all of them. So I ended up, even though I had on paper, I looked great. I looked great, man. I had a 4.0. I was third in my class. That's a whole different story that kind of makes me angry. But we won't talk about that. And then did I all this different stuff. And for me, when it really started to click is when I started, I started to process that and be like, man, I didn't get what I wanted. Like, really, the first time in my life where I didn't get what I wanted. Just to be honest, right? Like, just on my own volition, right? Out of my own hands. When before, all the work, I'd work hard to get the result. I would get it every time. This time, that didn't happen. And it was earth shattering for me. I skipped school the next day. I was super fucking depressed. I wasn't answering my phones, like my phone. My friends actually like came to my house and like banged on my window because I wasn't worried about me. But this is kind of my transformative moment. It's like the weeks.
I think I lost you, Socrates. You still there? I think I might have lost him. He's having a bad connection right now, guys. Hang tight. Hang tight. You able to hear me, Socrates? Check one, check. Yeah, he's frozen. I know he was having bad internet connection. Yep, we just lost him. Well, when he comes back, here he comes. Here he comes.
Oh, my
God.
right,
yeah, you're back. You're back now. You're back now.
Oh shit, dude.
All right.
Man, I was fucking popping off, dude.
I know. I was trying. I was like, wait. I was like, no, don't.
Okay.
Yeah, you were right at the transformation part.
Yeah,
this was my transformation, and then you just
yeah. If I lag out again, I'll get on my phone. But
no, your connection's all right now, but it was down the red. You're looking to yellow right now.
Okay, gotcha. So what ended up happening is so my friends banged on my door. Like the next 2 to 3 weeks, I had to spend a lot of time like being a little bit introspective. Like, okay, well, where do we go from here? Life doesn't end, right? And that's when I really started to be a little bit more optimistic. I was like, man, life doesn't, like, I'd watch all these things, people talking about being in similar situations. I'd be like, you know what? This sucks. Don't get me fucking wrong. Like at that time, she's now my ex-girlfriend, but my girlfriend at the time got into Princeton, which was her dream school. Being around her was a little bit weird because I wanted to go to an elite school like that too. But I also saw the good and stuff like that because I saw how happy she was. All my other friends were with their results. I was like, you know what? There's some good in this. Maybe my path will be okay if I don't go to Stanford. And then I was like, okay, well, how can I prevent this for other people? I was like, how can I make other people make sure they get what they want? So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I made an SAT, ACT PEP program for my high school that went on. I did 4 programs for that over the rest of the year for free to all the students at my high school. And then I started a brand new tutoring program at my high school as well. And then when I got to college, it ended up working out really well for me. I ended up getting a full ride scholarship to Oklahoma State. So I studied at Oklahoma State for a couple of years. And then while I was there, for me, education was what I cared about. So I was like, you know what? I don't want people to go through that experience that I did. Let me make a student organization that helps high school students get into college. And then that's when I really started to learn more about inequities in education, inequality in education, stuff like that. And I did an absolute fucking shit ton of research on that. And that's when I started to kind of really look at the world from a different lens and think about it more from, of course there's a lot of bad that happens in this world, but I can do a lot of good. So for me, that's when I started to be more of an optimist and more of a supporter and someone who looked for ways to contribute to the community and not be extractive. Because at the end of the day, if you look through history, the super, super famous people were generally bad people, let's be real. But people who typically are pretty successful were because they're not super extractive people. They're genuine, and then they work their way up. They're just kind of silent about it. Right? If you look through how all these people succeed, right? It's through knowing the right people and providing free value and doing cool stuff and being nice. And it's not about being an asshole, right? So for me, that's when things change. That was really my kind of inflection point in life. I went from being an introverted, bookworm kind of guy, nerd, I used to play video games, and then now I'm more of like completely extroverted, sales, BD, business, helping people, whatever, right? So that's been my evolution.
I think it's a great lesson that you learned at a young age, though. I mean, honestly, like at 22, I think back to where I was at 22, and for perspective, I'm 40. I'll be 45 in less than 10 days.
Yeah,
So I mean, I'm old and I've been around the block. I've lived some life. I'm very blessed in life, and I'll never change anything I ever did or regret anything I did because it got me to a very good point in life. But that
right.
lesson that you learned and that made you who you are now is so important, and I hope you're aware of that, like how important that lesson was, because that's something I didn't learn until I quit drinking in my 30s, and I realized that there
Mhm.
was more to life than partying, having a good time, and just not giving a shit about anybody else. You know what I mean? Just only caring
Yeah,
about where I was going and who I was. I'm not saying I was like a nightmare of a person, but I wasn't always looking out for everybody else's interests. I was always, I was always number one, which is fine. It's fine to live that way, but the lesson and the value that you get out of the way you are now at your age and like where I am now in my life is much more rewarding. And I lost them again. We'll see if we can get him back. He's been having some internet issues, so I do apologize for him dropping out. He is coming back hard.
I'm so
There
back.
he is. There he is.
Okay, but keep
No, it's
going,
all
keep
good.
going.
At least I was talking this time when you cut out. But I'm just saying, like, man, you're very blessed to have that life lesson at such an early time in your life, because
Yeah.
it's gonna do you wonders, bro. It is gonna do you wonders.
Mhm.
You're gonna have such a blessed life because of that humility that you have and understanding of like there's more to life than just
Yeah.
what I need and what I want.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I mean, like you said, your girlfriend got into this college, and you were just like anybody else would be jealous and be hateful, and you learned from it. So props to you for that, man.
Oh, I was jealous, Nate. I definitely, I mean,
Still having some bad connection issues with you, man. Not sure if you can hear me. Let's see if we can get you on your phone.
switch my
There you are. You're there.
oh,
Here you
let me
are.
switch. Let me switch my phone anyway. I think it'll be a little bit easier.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
We won't be much longer.
Okay. Let me
Yeah,
switch
just hop
this.
in on your phone, and we'll
Socrates.
finish up on the phone. If anybody in the crowd that's listening has any questions, feel free to ask them now. Yeah, Slate freeze up. He's coming back in. Hang on. All right, I switched you over to your phone. There you go. All right.
Actually, hold on. Let me find my.
No, you're good. You're good. Take us on a tour. Take us on a tour.
No, I'm not gonna take you on tour. I'm gonna find my earbuds. But yeah. So kind of on that story, dude. Like I was super envious, man. Like I remember she got in, and I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Because we opened our things right next to each other. Like,
Oh man.
yeah, like we were in the same room, and she opened her admissions, and she starts freaking out. And then I'm like, holy shit, dude, I wonder if I got into Stanford. I open it up and I get rejected, right? It's a total nightmare. But I think over time, especially when I saw like how much my friends had like actually cared about what I was doing and how I felt about the emotion, I was like, what am I doing? Like I can't mope forever. Like what the
Yeah.
fuck is wrong with me?
So
So
you
why
just
not
broke
why
up.
not just
So
be
you just
happy
broke up
for
with her.
people? No, we were in a relationship for quite a while after that, but
I'm
yeah,
just
it
playing,
was
man.
it was an interesting experience to say the least. To say the least.
I'm just joking. I figured you probably didn't break up with her over that. You're not that type of guy.
But yeah, it was a great experience. But yeah, I think I definitely don't take this is me switching to my earbuds here.
No, you're
Um,
good.
but I definitely don't take that kind of stuff for those lessons for granted, for sure. For me, like I've definitely had a lot of people who, and this has definitely been one thing as well. One thing I always ask or I tell people to do whenever they're talking to me. So you get to see more of my room here. But
It's all good.
whenever I talk to people and they're asking me like, dude, Socrates, how why do you think the way you do, or how do you know so many people or whatever? I think one great way to start like figuring out who you are is by learning who other people are. Like an interview show like this in particular, which is why I love stuff like this. Dude, it helps you so much in understanding other people's perspectives, why they are the way they are, and you start learning more about like, like you start being like, that's interesting. Maybe I should think that way. You meet a lot of great. I'm untangling my headphones right now, but
No, you're good.
you meet a lot of great people, and it really makes you think about, who am I really, and what am I supposed to be doing here? So that's one thing I had the pleasure of doing. I met a lot of great people with my interview show. I did like 70 episodes or something. So it was great. It was great. But yeah.
No, they were great shows. I mean, I tuned in for as many as I could. I try my best to support people when I can. But I see you're switching over to your headphones right now. Lost you on video, but you should still be there. You are. Hey, there you are.
Oh, like give me a second. Give me a second.
No, you're good. I'm just actually eyeballing things in your room to try to learn more about you because I'm that type of person. So like I've seen some vinyl records behind you. I've seen some
Yeah, I
decent
got some
amount of
records.
books. I see.
Yeah, I got a lot of books too.
I've seen some
Yeah.
types of shoes that you got on your shoe rack.
Yeah, I've got some like Adidas. I need to clean my shoe rack, man.
No, you're good.
Out of whack.
I am a shoe collector because I used to be a performer. So I used to have like new shoes every time I'd be on stage. So I have a ton of shoes that I don't need. I started donating them. It was to that point that I had so many. But well, yeah, man. We're not going to be much longer here. I know you're having some internet connection issues. But what moves me to the last part of this, deep dive that I love to get into is where do you see yourself in Web3 in the future? Like, where are you heading? Like, what's your goals? I know Syndicate's a big part of your life now. Like, is it going to be strictly Syndicate? Do you see yourself working with other projects more, slowly focusing on yourself? Do you see yourself, moving out of Web3 or doing different things outside the NFT world? Like, what's your future look like for Web3?
Yeah, so my future for Web3, definitely a lot more Syndicate stuff for sure. We got a lot of work to do, dude. For us, like Discord is where we really started and where we're doing the most of our work, but we've got other cool stuff planned. We've got a couple other products that are going to be coming out Q1, Q2 ish that are being worked on in the back end, and I'm excited for those. And I've got a lot of different work to do for those as well. But so yeah, lots of different Syndicate stuff. There's some other stuff I do in the space. Like I'm in spaces all the time. I host my own spaces. I meet new people. I'm a part of the community. We have newspapers, physical newspapers that we do as well. I didn't get to really talk about. I've got them in my room somewhere. I wouldn't be able to find them right now. But yeah, there's a lot of different stuff that we're up to here at Syndicate. But for me, it's mainly going to be that kind of stuff. For at least the time being, right? For at least the next couple months, namely the creator program, right? It's a lot of work trying to figure out what the best way to do this is. We've got, a handful of creators now, like 8, 9 creators, but I want to get it to like 20. I think we can have that many and actually build out a pretty supportive community for everybody involved and, do some cool stuff. So that's kind of like what's on my radar, what's on my agenda, what's on my plate. And we will go from there. I think Web3 is about making sure you're open to opportunity. If you plan too far ahead, right, you railroad yourself into doing, having things set out every day for the next 3 months, you are doomed. You are doomed. I guarantee it. Because the best part about this industry is there's a lot of opportunity that comes up every day, right? And you never know, and you should always block out time and be very aware of that and be intentional about finding those opportunities. And this kind of goes into my philosophy with the creator program. One thing I require from everybody on the creator program is actually having a Calendly. It sounds a little bit weird, but having people be able to book meetings to your calendar is invaluable. Because if you think about it, whenever you kind of reflect on Web3 and you think about your opportunities in life in general, 90% of the opportunities we're given are given by people we know, our friends, our family, our coworkers, people we networked with. And if you're not meeting new people every week, of course you're not going to find any new opportunities, right? So all of my creators have to have Calendlys, and they have a minimum amount of people they need to meet every week, because that's how you're going to grow. That's what matters. So yeah, so that's kind of what I've been up to, what I'm excited for, and what I'm about.
Well, I will say, if you have anybody that's very interesting, that's growing, and you think is a very good candidate, I'm always open to guests on my show for the deep dive series. I'd love to dig into people in Web3 that are out there doing positive things. And I'm always open too for calls. If anybody wants to expand their knowledge and meet new people, you can always send them my way. I'll gladly support you guys and anything you're building. DeCod3rs, of course, will as well. I mean, maybe you can get together with Piff and come up with kind of a series tying in your content creators and getting them on YouTube, and maybe do a show, like a format. It'd kind of be fun, have some of them on there live. Anything you can come up with, by all means. DeCod3rs platform's open to anything Syndicate. We got nothing but love for you guys. If you guys aren't familiar with Syndicate, it's the news feed you see in Decoder server and probably every other server you're in that's telling you about mints and telling you about info and telling you the news. Socrates is part of that. That's his project. So you might not know him personally, but you know his news channel, you know his news feed, you see it every day. It's awesome. I know before you talked about you were expanding to more of a Web 2 side of that too. You guys are still working that angle too, with more of, like you said, physical newspapers, email systems and stuff like that. You guys are still working that angle too, I assume.
Yeah, so we've got an email that we do as well. The email is kind of on ice. Because it's just something we're working on. It takes a lot of time and effort to put together an email, and we're just trying to grow elsewhere, man. We've got Ethereum that we're branching over to. That we've got 20% of our network is Ethereum. We want to bump that number up, so that's something we're conscious of. And then we've just got our Twitter Spaces and other stuff like that. But at the end of the day, one of the big reasons we started Syndicate is because we believe that the space needs more go-to-market avenues, right? More marketing verticals. And for us, it's okay, how can we be a little bit more creative and make new things, new ways for people to go to market? So we're always conscious of new ways to go about doing that. So yeah, doing stuff on Telegram, doing stuff on email, having our own website that has news articles that are original, like stuff like that is something we're very aware of and striving for sure.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure having you in the space, and I'm very thankful for what Syndicate's building and has built. Like I said, it's not a lot of it out there, and you're totally right. We need more than Twitter. Twitter can't be the go-to. Like, what I mean? It can't be the only angle. There's got to be more, and the way you're tying it together, it's beautiful, man. We've seen people attempt it in the past. We've seen other bots. We see other projects doing the same thing, but I mean, what you guys are doing, I think, spot on, and I continue to see the growth with what you guys are building, man. It's lovely to see. I'm going to drop a Discord invite to Syndicate in our alpha chat. If anybody's listening, doesn't know anything about Syndicate, wants to jump in their Discord, see what they're doing, see what they're up to. If you just want to meet some new people, just mingle, have another server that's cool, legit people that are just there to help the space, by all means, jump in. I definitely recommend following my man on Twitter. His link should be in the bio of this video. Follow him on Twitter, follow Syndicate on Twitter, because I see nothing but positive come from you, man. Like every post, I'm always like, yeah, man. Like I would, like my Twitter almost will be your Twitter because I want to retweet everything you post, but I'm like, I can't just keep retweeting everything. But it's always positive. It always has good perspective, and I enjoy it, man. I love your content. I love what you're doing. Me personally, I just want to let you know that I respect it. I love it. I appreciate it. And I'm not sure if many people tell you that on a daily basis because, we forget to tell people the good things.
Yeah.
We're so easy to tell them the bad things.
Yeah, I appreciate you for sure, man. Yeah. I don't post too much on my account because most of my time, like I'm in so many meetings, man. I help people with their content. At this point, my account is like stream of consciousness type stuff, whatever I'm thinking about. I'm sure there'll be a time, like maybe this upcoming month, where I'm a little bit more intentional. But, dude, I do appreciate it. I try my best, and I'm glad I'm able to be positive in one way or another for all the homies.
The thing is, it's so natural for you when you say you try your best. You're just being yourself, and I love it. You know what I mean? You're just radiating, and that's what's perfect about it. That's what's, like you said earlier, it's about being genuine. Like someone just having that genuine feeling. Like that's the kind of stuff we look for in Web3, because when you find those genuine people and you can really understand what they're saying and feel it, it hits different than just some Twitter post with 1,000 retweets. Like, oh, I should like this because everybody else does. Like, no,
Right.
if it doesn't, I don't care if it has 1 retweet or 1,000. If it doesn't hit me or I don't feel it, it's not for me. So I mean,
Right.
Like I said, man, it's awesome, man. I'm just glad that you had the time to come do the show. I know you had some connection issues, but your audio has always been good. It's just your video was dropping out, and then we lost you.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening, man.
It's all good. Your audio has been perfect. So I mean, until I said you dropped out, that's when I lost your audio. But I mean, the whole show, you were kind of like a blob on the screen here and there, but I could hear you.
Okay, gotcha. Well, good enough, right? That works.
Yeah, for sure, man. But yeah, man. Here at DeCod3rs, man, we just love bringing out positive people in the space. Hopefully, if you didn't know about Socrates, you're gonna go follow him. Maybe you met someone new today that might inspire you, because man, you inspire me. That's all I'm saying. And
Yeah,
I know
I'm glad I could, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like people think about like I'm 20 years older than you. You would think like I could never be inspired. Like people have that mindset. Like you're so much younger than me. What could you teach me? Like that's what's wrong with the space. It's like you have to have an open mind. age is nothing, like it's perspective. Everything is perspective, and everybody's perspective is different than everybody else's. And you can learn so much by somebody else's perspective daily if you just listen to what they were saying and didn't judge them for their perspective and ask questions, and ask them questions the right way, not in a condescending way or that your way is always right. Like if you don't understand their perspective, ask them what you don't understand, so maybe you can understand it, because you'd be
Right.
amazed, what you could learn from other people.
Yeah, dude, I got a quote for that. It's ask a question. No, ask a question, be a fool for a minute. Never ask a question, be a fool forever. Right.
And there's
So,
so much truth to that because
yeah,
of what I
yeah.
just said.
It's so real. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Well, that's the thing, man. Like everybody's so easy to knock people down. Nobody wants to lift anybody up in this space, and I'm against that. That's why I try to do this show. And I know you've done your share of these shows too, and you've
Yeah.
done a lot of value to that space. So, hopefully we can continue it on. Hopefully we see more of you on the channel. Like I said, I speak for all of us DeCoders, man. This is your family. Anytime you need help, anytime you want to use the platform, we can help you. By all means, man. That's what DeCoders is about.
Of
It's about
course.
expanding, this whole network and just getting the love out there. But I hope everybody enjoyed the show. If anybody has any questions, drop them in. I'm gonna drop that Discord invite though, if anybody wants to join over and hang out with you guys. You got anything else you want to say before we wrap up the show?
No, dude, I think it was an excellent conversation. I talked about, various different things I've either done here in Web3 or in my life or, whatever. And it's been a good experience all around. I just want to thank you for hosting the show. I mean, I always love hopping on Decoder stuff. You guys always do an excellent job. Your production quality is top of the line. I'm sorry my internet connection, fumbled the bags a little bit there, but it's been a great experience. Thank you so much for having me. And I'd love to collaborate again in the future, for sure.
Always open for you guys. So everybody in DeCoders, we'll see you in the next one. Vince should be home this week. He hasn't been feeling so good, so show him some love in the Discord. He's been sick while he's been back at France, but he should be back this week. We should have some nice shows lined up for next week. I haven't announced any other deep dive guests, but I got some people working that are going to be cool. So we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for